Trayon White Sr. Trayon White Sr. is a member of the District of Columbia Council. Now, he put something on Facebook. This is the Washington Times. He put something on Facebook, and he's had to take it down. Now, again, this is a politician, local government of Washington, D.C. He's had to issue an apology for anti-Semitic comments that he made on Friday, suggesting that Jewish financiers control the weather. This is an elected member of government. Okay? This is... Now, hold on. Before you get all high and mighty, okay? Keith Ellison believes this. Keith Ellison hangs out with a guy who believes this. So does Andre Carson, representative from Indiana. The second Muslim member of Congress after Keith Ellison. They all hang out with Farrakhan. Farrakhan talks... You realize after all of this criticism of Farrakhan came out, Farrakhan went ahead and criticized the Jews for organizing all of this negative publicity? I'm not making this up. You can't make this up. Do you see that Al Sharpton's group and Black Lives Matter are going to protest in support of Farrakhan? Do you think Al Sharpton is going to lose his job at a major cable network because an organization that he is tied to is protesting in favor of anti-Semitism? Do you think left-wing Jews will all of a sudden not like the idea of Black Lives Matter standing for left-wing values? By the way, they don't really. Black Lives Matter has made it very clear that they hate Democrats too, but Democrats still own them, or claim that they own them, I should say. And yes, I chose that word very carefully. Isn't it interesting, though? How many left-wing Jewish organizations do you think are going to criticize the Democratic Party for throwing in with Black Lives Matter when Black Lives Matter is marching in support of Farrakhan? Now, there have been plenty of people who have lost their jobs for saying things that people found to be offensive, right? And here you have an organization tied to Al Sharpton, which is marching in favor of racism and anti-Semitism. You think he's going to lose his job there? No, probably not. D.C. Council member Trayon White Sr., a Democrat, I know you're shocked about that, shot a brief Facebook video on Friday morning of him driving through downtown Washington as snowflakes fell on the windshield. That's actual snowflakes, not college students. Actual snowflakes. Like the little round things that, are cold and they melt. Just in case you were confused. Man, it just started snowing out of nowhere this morning, man. Y'all better pay attention to this climate control, man. This climate manipulation, he said. And D.C. keep talking about, we're a resilient city. And that's a model based off the Rothschilds. Oh, buzzword. Rothschilds. Oop. Controlling the climate to create natural disasters they could pay for to own the cities, man. Be careful. That's what he said. I didn't actually listen to the audio, so I don't know if my somewhat pasty white rendition of what he was saying was accurate or not. Now, the Rothschilds, European Jewish banking family, and anytime you throw the Rothschilds out there in context like this, it is an anti-Semitic comment. So he's had to take the video down. It was deleted from Facebook following public backlash. And he went ahead and he apologized for the video. But in response to my social media post on Friday, as a leader, I work hard every day to combat racism and prejudices of all kinds. I want to apologize to the Jewish community and anyone I have offended, he said. And then he talks about how he's been allies of the Jewish community and everything else. Yeah, it sure sounds like it. Sure sounds like you're allies with the Jewish community. But this does bring up some interesting points with Farrakhan. And that's kind of what I wanted to address. I ran into a really interesting column today. It's in the Daily Caller. It's from Jerome Danner. Farrakhan anti-Semitism shows inconsistency. It's an interesting piece. I'm going to talk about that, read a little bit from it coming up on Newstalk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
KC Hendrickson. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
Your breaking news and weather station.
And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. I'm your host, Casey Hendrickson. Traffic is driven by RNB Car Company. Locations, again, in South Bend and Warsaw. RNB Car Company are your Second Amendment headquarters. 574-2595, 95.3. That is 2595953. You can also send a text message to 45364. Please put MNC at the beginning of that message. Got a text that says, Jews control the HARP array, which actually controls the weather. George Norrie knows. You misspelled HARP, but okay. All right. So here's the thing. So we've got a problem with the Democratic Party and Farrakhan. Okay? We have a big problem. And Farrakhan has been, out there with the Democratic Party, for elements of the Democratic Party, for a long, long time. I've always found some of the coverage of Donald Trump very, very interesting. And the reason I find it interesting is not just with Russia, with everything that he has been accused of doing, the Democrats are actually doing, but everything else not pertaining to Russia that he has been accused of doing, the Democrats have done. Now, you have to keep in mind, there's still never Trumpers out there who are lying about Trump's response to Charleston. On all sides, the left, the right, they're all lying about Trump's response. Remember, all Trump did was say exactly what the police said. And because he didn't focus on one group and he focused on all of the groups that participated in violence, he was somehow being racist, which is, of course, obscenely juvenile and stupid. But I found that the coverage of him has been so interesting because the Democratic Party, now, one of the accusations against Trump is that he has, quote, thrown in with racists, right? That he gave white supremacists a comfortable place to participate in the electoral process. Even though he's never said anything racist, he gave them a place that they could feel welcome. He threw in with them, right? Which is, of course, absurd. But the Democratic Party has been doing that with the new Black Panther Party and Farrakhan and a bunch of others for a number of years, and nobody on the left has said diddly squat. Jewish Democrats have said virtually nothing on the subject. Virtually nothing. How many times did they ask Donald Trump to disavow David Duke? Now, Donald Trump disavowed David Duke before the media started asking him to disavow David Duke. And then they asked him to disavow, and he disavowed, and then they kept pretending that he never did. How many times did we cover that story, Tim? Dozens, right? They're still pretending that he didn't disavow David Duke, and he did. He disavowed the guy before the media ever asked him to. And then he did it again and again, and they kept saying, why won't you disavow David Duke? I've disavowed him many times. Yeah, but why won't you disavow him on this show right now? It's like, I've already disavowed the guy. He refuses to, headline the next day, Trump refuses to disavow David Duke. No, he had already disavowed him. He thought it was silly to have to keep doing it. Is anybody going to ask the leadership at the Democratic Party, Tom Perez or anybody else, to disavow Farrakhan? Is anybody going to ask Al Sharpton, who contributes at MSNBC, to disavow Farrakhan? He's the president of the National Action Network. They are organizing with Black Lives Matter and the new Black Panther Party. They are going to organize a protest, quote, in defense of Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan. Now, Don Imus got fired for saying something about women basketball players. Will Al Sharpton lose his job at MSNBC? He hosts Politics Nation. Will he lose his job there for organizing a protest for an anti-Semite racist like Louis Farrakhan? The groups are protesting a House resolution introduced by Republican Indiana Representative Todd Rokita. You might know Todd Rokita. He's running for Senate. That formally condemns Farrakhan's anti-Semitism. The activists instead want lawmakers to pass a resolution condemning President Donald Trump. So Louis Farrakhan says anti-Semitic things. He is a racist. He hates white people. He has called white people inferior. Producer Tim, how long do you think it would take John to come flying down those stairs and burst into this office, into that door right there, if I were to say any non-white group were inferior to white people? How long do you think it would take him to fly in there and kick me out of the studio? I mean, he's been doing the low-carb thing, and he's been using Alpha from Nutrition HQ, so he's got more energy. So, 15 seconds, maybe, if he doesn't fall down the stairs, tripping over his feet, trying to get to me faster. That or he'd remotely shut me down. He could probably do that. He'd probably just hit a button and remotely shut me down from upstairs. That's racist, right? When you say that a race of people is inferior to another race of people, that's racist, right? Have we established that? Can we again, this goes back to what we opened the show with. Americans used to be able to say that when somebody does something horrible and bad and illegal and evil, that we can call it out, regardless of their political affiliations or how they vote, right? We used to be able to do that. We can't do that anymore. Farrakhan is a bad person. The people supporting him are supporting bad people, and they themselves are bad people. Okay, to have Al Sharpton's group, the new Black Panther Party, and also Black Lives Matter support Louis Farrakhan's anti-Semitism should really upset liberal Democrats of the Jewish faith and liberal Democrats, period, if they're decent human beings. That should make everybody mad. Right? Nobody's happy about white supremacists protesting in the street, right? Why should we be okay with this? Huh? Oh, it's different, Casey. How is it different? Because only white people are racist. If that's all you got, you're stuck. You've got nothing else? Not much hope for you. Can I just point out, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to point this out, and I'm pointing this out on social media. The Democratic Party is more upset with a criminal, Andrew McCabe, being fired by his own organization. Not by the president, by his own organization. Somebody who was under investigation before Trump was president. The investigation concluded, and they wanted him fired. So they fired him. Democrats are more upset about Andrew McCabe being fired than they are about the deputy chair of the Democratic National Committee, Keith Ellison, hanging out with an anti-Semite racist, Louis Farrakhan. Andre Carson, representative from Indiana, did the same thing. But Andre Carson told the truth. He told everybody that he and Ellison were with Farrakhan and that he might go with Farrakhan again in the future, might meet with him in the future. Ellison lied and said, I was never there, but he was. Do you realize Democrats are more upset about Andrew McCabe, a criminal, being fired than by the deputy chair of their own party hanging out with an anti-Semitic racist and then lying about it to them? Do you realize that? And I tweeted out, I said, this kind of pulls back the veil a little bit, don't you think? And what are they talking about today on the news? Not this. Not this. I haven't seen MSNBC go, we're really not happy with Al Sharpton's network doing this. MSNBC's like, yay, it's Al Sharpton. Yeah, of course, he's an anti-Semite. We know that. That's why we hired him. As long as he votes Democrat, we're good. Now, I'm only a quarter Jewish, so I'm only 25% upset about this. But the other 75% of me knows that this is wrong. So I'm assuming that you all know it's wrong too, right? Like, you get that it's a thing to be upset with somebody who is anti-Semitic and hates Jewish people, right? Like, you understand that that's, like, not supposed to be okay. The same people who were running around and claiming that anti-Semitism was on the rise because of Donald Trump are excusing Keith Ellison's behavior, Andre Carson's behavior, Al Sharpton's behavior, and Farrakhan's behavior. They are probably going to excuse this local guy in Washington, D.C., who blame the Jews on bad weather. They're probably going to excuse, because he's a Democrat at least, so they're probably going to excuse that too. But you're really, really upset that a white guy who was committing crimes and abusing his power got fired. Isn't that interesting? Jerome Danner. He says, Louis Farrakhan's anti-Semitism reveals more inconsistency on the left. Now, Jerome Danner is a black guy. He's a member of Project 21 Black Leadership Network National Advisory Council. Hostility and prejudice towards Jewish people is obviously nothing new in our country or the world. It is actually quite interesting to note that there are neo-Nazis and black radical extremists who, while simultaneously hating one another, share common ground with both groups having a fanatical distaste of Jewish people. This is true. With this in mind, this form of bigotry has been the impetus for some political ramblings in the media as of late. The Daily Caller has revealed the number of politicians with direct connections to Minister Louis Farrakhan, the 84-year-old leader of the Nation of Islam, who has been known for his hostile remarks towards the Jewish people in the past. Some have gone on to denounce Farrakhan and or his statements recently. Now, that's only after being uncovered that they were there. Just like Obama didn't care about his racist pastor until everybody found out about Reverend Wright. Then he was like, I disavow any hateful things that he said, but I never heard him say any of it. However, there are still those who have maintained a relationship with him in spite of the vile remarks that he has made about this particular group of people. He then goes on and he talks about the history of anti-Semitism and stuff like that with Farrakhan. And then he gets to inconsistencies on the left regarding Farrakhan, even with there being a history of disputable assertions by Farrakhan. Politicians like Democratic California Representative Maxine Waters have not condemned him. Also, as pointed out in the Daily Caller, Minnesota Representative and Democratic National Committee Deputy Chair Keith Ellison continues to meet with Farrakhan even after having condemned him earlier in 2006, which he had to do to get elected. CNN's Jake Tapper made a good point about condemning Farrakhan's bigotry through a recent social media post. Tapper said, it's really not difficult at all to condemn this anti-Semitic, nonsensical bilge, unless, of course, you A, agree with it, or B, don't want to alienate those who do. Nobody is calling on any of these prominent Democrats to disavow Farrakhan or Al Sharpton to disavow Farrakhan. And nobody is threatening their jobs if they continue to support him. Isn't that interesting? Got more coming up. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.